Hi guys, Will Terry here, and this video is going to be called Do You Know When to Say No? And by that I mean when to turn down illustration work. Before I get going, I just like to give you updates on things that are happening. I'm going to be doing a I'm going to be doing an interview with a really cool artist next week, and I'll upload that to YouTube as well. And this guy is he's just amazing. A young guy who does really well at comic conventions, and so some of you might be interested in that interview. Also, we just had our best comic convention ever, and I wasn't even there. It was in Emerald City, and we totally smashed the dollar amount that we've ever made before by a long shot, and I will update that on that following video. What else? I still on my diet, and I just hit 60 pounds, a total of 60 pounds down today. So update on that if you're following me there. And what else? I'm in the midst of my texture painting class right now. Let me show you a sneak preview of some of the stuff we're doing in there. This is a interactive online class at svslearn.com, and we're learning how to paint textures. And this week I have been doing a lot of drawovers and a lot of critiques of some of the work, and then I post those videos to our svslearn.com site. So just kind of updating you on that, and that class will actually make it into our subscription by the end of March. This is March 2018. Okay, so let's get on to the topic at hand. Do you know when to say no? And I think so. The catalyst for this, and for those of you who might be new to my channel, I get a lot of questions that are emailed to me or messaged to me. Sometimes they come through the SVS Learn info, and I get them forwarded from our customer support person. And this one is basically it's one that I've had for a long time. I keep a Google Doc with all these questions in it, and then when I want to make a YouTube video, I gotta go through when I get time, and I'll pick one that I think is pertinent. Some of them I'll answer just right away because it's a quick answer. Some of them I've already made a YouTube video about, so I'll send them a link to a YouTube. But some of them, I feel like I haven't really covered, or I didn't cover thoroughly, or for whatever reason. So I'm gonna try to hit this one. This is someone who, and I'm always hesitant to use their name because I don't know if they want me to or not. So I'm not going to. But to this woman, you know who you are. She's a very competent illustrator, someone who was taking our classes, but who was like a rock star kind of from the beginning, and just posting her work on our forums, and always involved and engaged. And she lives in Europe, I believe. And but her work is just phenomenal, and it's just gotten to the point where it's super professional. And she says, let me first tell you that your YouTube videos have been a huge help. Okay, I listen to them. I was wondering whether you could make a video that focuses on turning down job offers. I know it sounds against the grain, but you mentioned the importance of saying no a few times in between other topics, and I would love more insight on when and how to say no to jobs, when it's good to trust your guts, and when you have to be aware that you may be passing on a good chance. And so she goes on to say, I'm freelancing since about 15 months. I have a literary agent who is pitching my first book dummy right now after burning 2 others. Let's see, I have several more ideas for picture books, 2 very concrete ones. So she's basically, and it's a long letter, but basically she's saying she's got her own stuff going on that she's really trying to push, but then she gets asked to do these kind of low-paying jobs, is what I'm reading into this. Let me see if I can find some more in here, because I think a lot of people have this problem. You're getting asked maybe by an author to illustrate a children's book, and they haven't really put together any money. They haven't thought about who's even going to print it. They're really not prepared sometimes. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they have deep pockets, but a lot of times they don't. She says, meanwhile, I'm receiving, yeah, here it is, many inquiries from self-publishing authors and small, no advance publishers. The last yesterday from a lady who, and this letter is probably 6 months old, but from a lady who wants to pitch a film concept to Disney. So far, I turned all down at some point of the conversation. I can do the maths, and while I can work for crumbs, if it helps me build a contact with a reputable publishing house, I do not feel like spending little paid hours on somebody else's dream or questionable business plan, not when I have my own ideas to nurture. Right. Okay. So that's really the gist of it. I'm just kind of reading ahead here. Yeah. So basically what I have done, and so in the beginning, when you first start freelancing as an illustrator, you're in my, I mean, I'm just trying to deconstruct from when I first started, and the thoughts and the feelings that were going through my head. At first you have this feeling like you're not an illustrator until you start getting paid regularly for work, right? I mean that's kind of the definition of a professional, is that you get paid to do the thing that you do, right? So a professional athlete is getting paid, and a novice or amateur isn't. And until you're getting paid, and so we all, I think we naturally place that burden on ourselves. Like, I'm not a real illustrator. I can't really call myself or label myself an illustrator until I'm getting paid. And I've really come to realize that that is not true at all. And one of the reasons for that is some people are smarter than others in what they take. So, someone, and I put myself in the dumb category on that, because in the beginning I took every bad job that came along because, one, I was like, well, it's money, and two, it's experience, and three, I want to be an illustrator, so I would take it. Meanwhile, I had some friends who were like, way more judicious about the process and way more discerning about, like, well, what is this actually going to get me? How much money am I actually going to make? Am I going to be doing the kind of work that really helps my portfolio? Am I going to be doing things that, to where it really pays off? And some of them took a lot longer track into illustration. But to me, I see a few of them, and they built really solid careers really quickly, whereas it took me a lot longer. I think I floundered for the first 5 to 10 years because I was taking, and I was at points during that time, I was making really good money, but I wasn't building relationships with clients and getting long lasting clients. I was just doing the little jobs here and there, and they added up, and they allowed me to support my family. And it is actually, it would be hard for me, and probably, in my opinion, it would be wrong for me to say that what the way I did it was wrong, because I'm exactly where I want to be right now. So it would be easy to say, well, I should have done it this way. But without having that alternate reality, I don't know if that would have worked for me. We're all different. And maybe going the other route would have been more discouraging for me, and maybe I would have given up, and maybe I'd be doing something different now. I don't know. So I can only give you my criteria. One of the things that I think is really important for you as an artist, and for me as an artist, and for everyone who wants to be paid for their artwork, or paid for basically anything that they do, I think that you need to establish rules for yourself, right? And if you think about a business, like if you walked into, let's just say McDonald's, because it's a universally known restaurant. If you walked into McDonald's and you said, "Hey, I've got this fresh fish that we caught today, and I want you to cook it up, and I want you to put it on your sandwich, and put your whatever sauce you put on the Big Mac, and make me a sandwich. I want a fish sandwich that way with this fresh fish." One, they would probably look at you like you're crazy, right? But the answer would be no. They have rules. And while there are some restaurants that will do that, especially in like seaside towns, there are places in the world where you can take your fresh fish and you can give it to someone and then they will cook it and give it back to you. Most restaurants won't do that, at least here in the States. Most restaurants aren't going to do that for you because they have rules. And I think that you, as an illustrator, have to decide the rules for your business, the things that you will live with and the things that you won't live with, right? So I can give you some of the rules that I've set up for myself, some simple ones, right? So one of them is I finish my work on time. If I take on an assignment and it comes down to where there's maybe some factors that weren't fully worked out, and the client ended up changing some of the parameters on me at the last minute, or just for whatever reason. Life happens. Maybe there's a family emergency, or maybe there's something going on. I work out my schedule. I've talked about this before. I work out my schedule so that I can finish my illustration anywhere from 2 weeks to a week ahead of the actual due date. That way, if anything else comes in, my wife has a problem and needs to go to the doctor, or anything, or another opportunity comes up, another like really quick job, I can take it and throw it under and get that one done. But one of my rules is I always turn in work on time, and I think I've only missed a deadline once or twice in my whole career. And it pained me when I missed those deadlines. Sometimes on children's books, I've had it where the project is so big and they've delayed it to where it really at some point it really wasn't my fault anymore, and even the client wasn't upset that they said, I know you're not going to be able to make this deadline now, and things like that. So if I don't count those, I don't think I've ever missed a deadline. And that's just a rule that I've made for myself. And one of the reasons for that is I want clients to know that they do not have to worry about me at all. That they can go home on the weekend if it's due on Monday or Tuesday. They can enjoy their weekend, and they will just know that the artwork is going to show up there by Monday. Like if it's due Tuesday, I'll send it on Monday. I always send it like a day or two early as well. I don't like to send it. This goes into another topic. I don't like to send it a week early because then it looks like I got nothing going on. So if I finish it a week early, I'll sit on it. The other thing is I don't want to turn it in a week early because then that gives them more things to change on it, arbitrary changes that don't even need to be done. And so as a strategy, I'll turn it in like a day early. But I want them, when an art director says they want it on Tuesday, in their mind, they're coming in Tuesday morning. They want to get that Tuesday morning. They won't say that, but they're already thinking that. So if you turn it in Monday morning, that's even better because then they have all day to mess with it and you can make their schedule easier. And then, they've got it. But if it's due on Tuesday and you turn it in Tuesday night, anyway, I digress. So that's one of my rules. Another one is that work is, and this one probably should have gone before, but the work is always finished. If I have to sacrifice something that I want to do, like I've got a party with friends planned, or I'm going to go mountain biking, or I'm going to do something. By the way, I'm going mountain biking after this. No matter what I have in my personal life, even if it's not really an emergency, but like, let's say I missed a lot of my kids' soccer games and football games. I made a lot of those games as well. I don't think that you have to go to, I think sometimes we put obligations on ourselves and we will sacrifice the thing that is actually fueling or paying for all of those other things. And we won't turn things in on time, or we won't finish things. Now, my work is always finished and it's always on time. Those are rules that I've set for myself. Another one is that I will, that I will treat every client the same, whether I'm getting paid $500 or $5,000. You're going to get my best work, right? That's just a rule. And I had to learn that one the hard way because I didn't do that in the beginning. And I burned a lot of bridges because I was like, well, if you're going to pay me $300, you're going to get a $300 job. You're going to pay me $3,000, you're going to get a $3,000 job. And that was just a horrible, I wish I had somebody like me telling you, don't ever do that. Your $300 client is going to, the $3,000 client is going to see your $300 work, and they're going to not hire you because they're going to go, well, this person is capable of that lower work, and so we're not going to pay them $3,000 to do ours or whatever it is. So every client is the same, no matter how much they're paying you, as far as your commitment to the art. And if you can't commit, so this goes into the letter, right? If you can't, for me, if I cannot commit that kind of dedication to a project, then that's one indicator where I will say no. Okay, and so basically, and to this person who wrote the letter, I know you already know this stuff. I think that you want to hear it kind of coming from me to kind of give you more permission. And by now you may have already worked all this out in your mind. But for me, and I did really go over this. If you haven't watched my video on pricing, for any of you watching right now, how to price your illustration work, I think I did it like 2 years ago, so you'll have to go back a ways on my channel. But if you just search it, like how to price your illustration work, Will Terry, it should come up. So I did that video on it, and I basically really break this subject down there from the money side. But I can tell you that when I get an opportunity that comes through email, the first thing I want to decide is how fun this project is going to be, because I'm sure we're all alike in many ways, that when you're working on a fun piece of art, something that you just really get into, it's not work, right? I mean, like, it is just pure pleasure, and you get lost. I mean, like, that is the reason why we're trying to do this as a living anyway. So if I read a manuscript, or if I, maybe it's an advertising job, or maybe it's a textbook illustration, or whatever it is. If I read it and I'm like, oh, this is great imagery, this is just amazing. It's like I don't want to try to describe, an illustration, but you know what you like, and I know what I like. And if it's your thing, then I'm willing to work for a lot less money if I can fit it into my schedule. Because now, I'm going to be working on something great. I'm going to put my time and effort into it, and it's going to be easy to put my time and effort into it, which means I'm going to be putting even more time and effort into it, which means it's going to turn out even better, and it could end up being some of the best work that I've ever done, And so then that could lead to getting more work because I put it in my portfolio, someone else sees it, and I mean, you guys already know all this, right? So that is the main thing right there. How fun is it going to be? If it's not fun, it better be paying a lot of money. Money is the second thing that I'm looking at. Money is life. Without money, you cannot live. You cannot eat. You cannot pay your rent. You cannot heat your home and cool your home and do all the things that you need to do. You can't go to the doctor. Money is life. And, money gets a bad rap. Oh, you're just doing it for the money. You're a sellout. Yep. Guess what? We're all sellouts. We're all sellouts because we all need money. And if you inherited your money, then you can afford to call someone else a sellout who obviously has to work for a living. And that's a pretty crappy thing to do, in my opinion. So, the money is a reality that we all need. And again, the pricing video, I'm not going to go into that part of it because I share the whole, my whole criteria for how to judge a job based on money, and how to factor it in, how to figure out if you're getting enough for you. So, but money is the second thing, and I will do a job sometimes. I don't want to. I'm not going to call out the jobs that I've done because I think it's unprofessional to. I think it's unprofessional to. I'm trying to think of the word. It's like denigrate. I think it's bad to talk poorly about your clients and the work that they've given you. That's not a very professional thing to do. But I can talk in generalities, and I did a job and it paid extremely well, and it really came with some really bad art direction. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be the best job ever. There's some aspects of it that I really liked, but it paid an insane amount of money, and I knew that I was going to be doing this thing that wasn't going to further my career. I wasn't going to really be able to use much of it at all for my portfolio, but man, I was going to get a lot of money out of it. And it worked. But it became, at the end, it got really confrontational with the department that was over it, because it was just, again, without getting into details, it just was one of those projects that I just dreaded working on every day. But the money, I mean, all I had to do was keep my eye focused on how much money I was going to get. And, I mean, it was enough money that a lot of people don't make this money in a year, and it was good, and and it really came at a good time, and it helped out. But it was purely for the money, and it's interesting because if I was offered that same job today, I think I would probably turn it down, because I think I'm in a good enough spot to where I don't need that kind of headache. It was like 2.5 months to 3 months of really just grinding. It was horrible. Now, if my financial situation was different, I would definitely take it again, right? So, again, that it factors in your, how much money you personally need is going to be different than someone else. And again, I talk about that in the other video. And then the last thing really is that experience, which really is kind of tied into that first. The first criteria, which is how much fun is it going to be? Because to me, when something's really fun, it's going to give you good experience, because you're going to do your best work, and then that's going to give you those experience points for your portfolio. But some of the reasons that I see people, like especially in this letter too, it's like, well, there's these opportunities, and I'm just not sure if they're going to pan out. And that is, it's literally one of those questions that no one can answer for you, except yourself, because we can't know. Now, one of the things you can do to protect yourself, and let me back up a little bit. You can't know if that project is going to pan out and pay a lot of money, if it's going to lead to crazy opportunities, where some other company sees it. I mean, you just aren't going to know. But I covered this in another video as well, and that is the criteria on what it should take for you to work with someone who is self-publishing, or maybe it's a really small company and they don't have much of an advance, or it's really low paying, but they're hyping the opportunity that this is. Now, be careful, because you'll hear some artists say, well, never work when someone tells you that you're going to get a lot of experience, because they're lying, or they're just trying to trick you into working for them for the money, for the low amount of money. And because they're not offering you much money at all, that's what they're trying to say to talk you into doing it. Now, I'm a guy who does not like to deal in absolutes. Is it true that sometimes people are trying to talk you into doing a job for them because they don't want to pay you a lot of money? Absolutely. Could it also be true that someone's telling you that you'll get a lot of good experience, and it is a lot of good experience, and you will be able to use it in your portfolio, and it will lead to other jobs. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's wise to dismiss every client that doesn't have a lot of money when you're starting out. And I also don't think it's wise to take every opportunity that comes along just because of the experience. I think that to me, the biggest factor that you should use to choose whether you do the job or not is how fun it will be. Because we've all done jobs. We've all worked on illustration projects that we regretted taking after we've dug into them, right? I can't imagine any of you not having gone down that road. It was Aunt Jenny, it was the neighbor down the street, it was my dad's friend, it was, it was somebody who kind of an acquaintance somehow that got into your life and that flattered you and, oh, you're so good, I love the way that you draw, I love the way you paint, you would be perfect for this project. Now you feel all good, and then you end up and for me, I don't like to give people bad news, right? I've never liked that. That's been one way that I've gotten myself into trouble in accepting jobs that I didn't really want to do, because I don't like saying no to people. And I've had to learn that saying no is an amazing thing. It's so good. It feels so good. Now, it doesn't feel good that you're hurting their feelings. It doesn't feel good that you're letting them down. What feels good to me is that you aren't going to let them down, because you're not going to take the job that you're going to hate, that you're not going to do your best on, and that they're not going to like, and that they're going to be disappointed when they see your work, and that they're going to ask you to make all these crazy changes, and that you're going to resent them, and now you're mad at them. And really, saying yes when you should say no is really a long, painful way of saying no. It's just, you might as well just take a knife and plunge it in your chest first, because that's what you're doing. You're saying yes, but really you're saying no, and you don't know it until you dig into it. And I think that the veteran illustrators have been down that road and taken so many bad jobs that it just becomes so liberating and so easy to say no. So I think most of you probably already know when you should say no. My way of handling this has always been to, evaluate every job and try to take some that, pay royalties or that look like they might have a good opportunity. Like I did a job one time with someone and it didn't pan out. This woman had been a toy. She had worked for a major toy company in the marketing department, and I thought, well, this was like 15 years ago, and I thought, well, that comes with some pretty good credential there. Like she has really worked in this area, and she had a children's book that she wanted to do, and she did a tie-in with a bakery for these cookies that go with it somehow. And it was weird, and because she was trying to get it ready for like a Happy Meal for McDonald's. And what I realized after I really got into it, and it just really wasn't working out, and I was dreading it, and she wasn't happy, and I realized I just didn't do enough of my own homework. And so really, one of the things that you can do if you're thinking about taking some of these jobs is to really vet these people and spend the time. Now, I did an interview with Tyrus Gaucher on, it was like last year in 2017. And he works with a lot of self-published authors, but he's figured out how to make it work. He's got a really ironclad contract. He vets his clients and he makes sure they have money, and he gets money up front and things like that. I think that you could do a lot of homework and say, okay, how far along? Because the easiest thing for an author to do is to call you, to send you an email and say, will you illustrate my book? And then you say yes, and they say, okay, here's the manuscript, get going. Now, you have no idea how much time they spent on their story. You have no idea how much time they spent polishing it, getting it critiqued. You have no idea if they've even thought about where it's going to be published, if they've even thought about who's going to design it, if they've even thought about ISBN numbers, if they've even thought about the format. So, one of the things that and now sometimes people want to self-publish and they've done all this homework and they are raring to go and they're pretty accomplished in their professional life, and maybe they have a bunch of money and maybe they, it's the kind of thing that you want to illustrate, and it's the perfect job for you to get a printed book where you can use it as a portfolio piece and show other art directors and editors and stuff. So I say, you can't, there is no blanket answer. You're going to have to look at every project on its own merits, and you're going to have to evaluate it and probably spend some time digging into the company or the person that's asking you to work for you. And if you do, it'll pay off. If you don't, you can get burned. Luckily on the projects that I've taken where and I've always wanted to do these gambling projects where you're gambling on, will this be something that takes off? Because to me, the illustrators that I know who have done really well financially, all of them have done well financially through the leveraging of publishing of some sort, where they're getting a royalty or they're getting an amount per unit that they're because they either own the IP or they're working for a publisher who is, like I said, paying them the royalty. Doing a job and getting a flat fee, and doing another job and getting a flat fee, and doing another job and getting a flat fee. That is, basically you have the life of a dentist, except for you're not in someone's mouth, you're drawing and painting. But when you're not drawing and painting, you're not making money. And so the allure of royalties is that, if this project blows up and if they sell, tens of thousands of units, your ship will come in later on, which is it's a wonderful thing when that happens. And it's happened to a lot of people. Probably most not through self-publishing. And so that's where, you really are taking a gamble there. But again, the experience points and all that. Anyway, I hope that these thoughts help you kind of figure out where to be and how to handle a situation like this. Because there's nothing worse than working on a job that you hate. There's nothing worse than, it's sunny outside. You want to be doing something with family or friends, and you're locked into your studio, and you've got to get this job done that's just killing you, that you just can't wait for it to be over. And it never ends, and the client is never happy, and they're always asking you to make changes, and it just gets horrible. Please do not accept assignments because because it's your aunt or your mom or your dad or it's like you have to be able to explain to them this whole thing about how if you explain to them how much you need to love the project and how much you're not going to love this one, and if they come back with, giving you excuses like you should like it, why don't you like it, and trying to make you feel guilty, they're not your friend. So you should be easier to say no to them, because they're not doing you any favors. They're gonna get you saddled into something because they have no idea what you go through. They have no idea what we go through. And so when people do that, when people try to assume what it's like to walk in my shoes, I think you're not as intelligent as a lot of people walking this planet, because the intelligent person understands that their experience is not everyone else's experience, and the intelligent person understands their own motivations for doing things. And so and I can tell when I'm talking to somebody who might want me to do something, all I have to do is start going down this road, and they'll start finishing my sentences for me and go, I totally get it. Totally get it. I'm glad that you can be honest, So anyway, hope this helps. and we'll have another video next week. I'm sorry for the gaps. Sometimes I get really busy on other things, and don't really nurture my YouTube channel as much as I should. But got another one coming next week. Okay, talk to you soon.